Welcome to the Knowledge Exchange, the Inside the London series where we explore how university students and employers connect classroom theory with real-world practice. I'm your host, Maciek. People call me Magic. And today we're joined by Jason Kane. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you very much for having me.
Jason works closely with alumni across industries and continents as part of the University of Pittsburgh's global engagement team. He connects graduates, employers, and the university to build meaningful partnerships and expand Pitt's international footprint. Today, we'll be talking about graduate readiness, employability pressure, and the real career benefits of study abroad. So, Jason, we prepared some challenges for you. They are not too difficult, but we want your honest. So we're going to start with the first one, which is bridging theory and practice. You work closely with alumni across industries and continents. From what you see, are graduates entering the workforce ready to apply what they've learned, or is it most practical development still happening after they leave campus?
Yeah, it's a great question, especially today with, how things are changing so rapidly across the global workforce. With pressures from AI, of course, coming in and changing what employers are looking for as to what's being taught in the classroom. But what I'm seeing at least is, the students have a curiosity now. The students want to get out. We have a very expansive program of getting our students out and connecting with alumni through our global experiences office. So what we've seen is the curiosity on the student side is leading them to choose different pathways of study to where they're gaining practical skills while they're still in school. They want to see meaningful outcomes. So just getting the letter grade right now doesn't seem as important as really digging in and gaining some type of skill. It's something where it's very different from past thinking of, especially US universities, of, the degree is what will take you to where you need to be. Now it's the degree and what am I taking out that I can immediately apply in the workforce. So what we're seeing at the university here is students who during their time here want to get out and have real hands-on experiences. So whether they're here in the US through what we call study away, where they're going out during summers and working with employers to our global experiences programs, where what we're doing is we infuse our alumni into those programs so that students can talk to our alumni who are in, working through their careers to find out what they need to do to be successful in their job search as they come out. It's very much a different mindset that I'm seeing in our students, to where they're very proactive in wanting to know what's going to put them in the best position when they graduate. And what they're learning is that is getting out and doing work and not just being able to learn theory.
Great one. And so, in a way, this is something we always ask all the employers as well, because there seems to be sometimes the cross purpose in which what they seek. Now, in your personal opinion, standing out in a crowded graduate market, what qualifies, what qualities or experiences actually help new graduates stand out today? Because it's a very saturated market, at least in this country. I don't know how the US, but it's a very saturated graduate market. Is it global exposure, networks, communication skills? So what qualities do you think do actually help the graduates?
Yeah, so I've worked at several universities here in the US, and one that I see is communication skills of what you have. It's being the ability to not just get a task accomplished on your own, but it's being able to build, work within teams, be able to really take your skills and be able to explain what they are. Because, you have certain disciplines where you're very independent in what you do in your learning. How are you able to take that into the workforce where now you have 12 people working on your project? And it's wonderful that you have personal skills to do your part of it, but how can you interact with everyone else? And now that we see, as you and I are sitting here talking from Pittsburgh and London, sometimes your team is global. How do you interact on that global scale? How do you, work within cultures or within sort of different countries, and how they're working on, I don't even know a good way to put it. I'm sorry about that. But just sort of the different pace of how they're working on what the projects are. So really, it's trying to figure out if you can have a well-rounded student coming out who doesn't just have the skills that they need to do their job, but also how to work within a team. The biggest takeaway is being able to not only take the skills that you have personally, but being able to make sure that you're working within a team in order to get these projects done. And, the way everything in the world is working now and with what I do is I could spend a day where I start with my morning meetings, talking to someone in Shanghai and Japan, and end those evening meetings after talking to someone in the UK, someone in India, end up back again speaking with an alum in South Korea later that evening. So it's all about learning how to manage working globally with teams.
So in a sense, there's one thing you mentioned, communication, which is what we've heard from a lot of employers, that they feel like the heads of the graduates are full of knowledge, and yet trying to get them to communicate in a sort of straightforward way so they can understand is one of the things that we have come across. One of the things that, is the quality that is more sought after from the employer's perspective. Now, there is, of course, pressure, the career outcomes and employability. Students often feel pressure to look too impressive, especially on the interviews, rather than gain meaningful experience. Based on alumni outcomes, what do you think universities should prioritize to genuinely prepare students for real world careers?
It's a wonderful question. And you're asking me this in 2025. And I can tell you that working at a business school back in 2008, this was pretty much an identical question that came up is students are coming out with an immense amount of knowledge and they're wonderful. But in their interviews and when they're first starting their jobs, they don't know how to communicate on a scale of what they're trying to get across. Or if a problem comes up, they have problems communicating, what the problem is to them and what help they might need. Because like you said, it's this need to look impressive. So everybody just wants to check boxes and put lines on resumes and get through things. But when difficulties arise, that's the time where you really see who's good. Because when you can't, get through an issue, rather than just stop or get frustrated or really try to push your way through it when you can't, the ability to stop and ask the right people and get through is a skill that graduates coming out really need, and especially in their young years of their career. Talking to alumni all around the world, the one thing that they really like is they want someone who wants to come in and learn aspects of what they're doing that they have no skill set for. If you come into a job and you're working on certain projects in your certain specialty, that's great. But what they want is someone who can now learn the entirety of the project, because those are the employees that are going to move throughout their company. Those are employees that are going to see aspects of other projects that someone might not see and be able to innovate on, be able to change and be able to push things for these employers. So some of the things that I've seen, we have great internship programs in the Netherlands, in some other places. Our Global Experiences Office allows internships in the UK. So what they're trying to do is get these students who are out to really get into employers and companies that are working in different industries across the globe, putting international teams together and really pushing these students outside of that comfort zone to where there may even be a language barrier that they're going to have to get past, in addition to the nature of the project. So I think that's where students are going to stand out, is when they push themselves to get into those situations.
Just a quick follow up on that one, because I'm sure there's plenty of success stories, but how do students feel a bit anxious about the employability? And then what is your take? What does you feel about the fact, because one end you've got the success stories and, balance with the reality that many students feel still anxious about their employability.
Yeah, and it is. And, the job market here in the US, like you mentioned, in the UK, there's an ebb and flow of what's going on, of different specialties coming out of the universities that are more sought after, some that are now, changing rapidly with how our world's changing, with how AI is coming in, so I think there's a lot of students that still have that anxiety. And it depends. When you're in the more technical degrees and the more technical aspects, I think there's less of that, because you're going in and you're looking at the job sectors and the jobs are out there. When it's more of a nebulous degree where you could work across things to where you have a lot of skills, I'll just say because we brought it up, communications. These are all over the place. So I think that's where students feel a little anxious, where you need to go in and get something that others other graduates wouldn't have. So to me, that would be the global experience. To me, that would be, getting out and doing an internship. That would be getting out doing co-ops, especially if you can get any type of experience while you're in the universities that you can shed light on things outside of your specialty that you're learning and out of your program. We've talked to alumni who do look back at our school to employ our students, and one of the things that they're saying is coming out of Pitt and our university is our students are very good at those soft skills. The students know how to go into interviews. The students know how to work within teams. So I think it gives us a leg up. Our career services office is wonderful to where we have programs that if you complete certain things while you're here in the university, they work to guarantee you internships during the summers. So really there's a focus on giving these skills, like you said, to take away a bit of the anxiety, but it will never be fully away because the reality is, the job market is a job.
It is. And, as you say, it's ebbs and flows. So it changes, the eye changes. There seems to be a common thread among some of our guests where we talked about and communication. I already mentioned to you. Another thing was presenting oneself, selling oneself, in a marketing way, branding yourself in a way that, when one of our speakers, Elizabeth Marriott, and she did say that, she wished there were at a university, there was a way you could bring in a students and you could present themselves in front of people, stress them out a bit and challenge them, which be beneficial to them later on, especially when they are being interviewed.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, in a way, I want to sort of bring the one question which we always ask everyone is, in the ideal world, you already are involved in connecting alumni, employers, and the university. So if it was up to you to design an ideal partnership between education and industry, what would it look like?
I really like what you just said about the coming in and, putting the pressure on the students early on. And how do you market yourself? How do you tell your story? How do you convey what skills you have outside of what you can just put on paper? And it's really interesting in trying to make those connections between universities to employers. And I think the one thing that we've done well that I see that works is, we're a big research university on what we have. So what we're able to bring to our employers are students and graduates that have done things beyond a simple classroom, and especially within our fields of bioengineering, some of the others, you have hands-on experience in research labs that are tied to a major medical center from the time you're a sophomore here. You're writing grants. You're doing all of these things that some schools just don't even have the ability to offer to their students. I mentioned with our career center, we have these guaranteed internships if you're working through things. So really pushing to make sure that we have the industry partners that these programs can be partnered with. So you can't do research independently. You're usually working and doing them with some company that is looking to explore this. The other thing right now, which is just amazing at our university, is our Office of Entrepreneurship and Innovation. And we have that tied directly to employers. Students can come in, they're basically incubators here at the university, can take their research, can take their ideas, have their startup, they're paired with companies, there are alumni mentors that come in, and they can spin their company out of the university. And there are lots of success stories on those. So I think what universities who are being really successful now are doing those types of things, bringing in industry partners very early on to work with students. And that's sort of a model that I see as working, because what you're also doing is you're showing these different industries and these different companies that the university can see what's happening in the global workforce, and just having theory behind what you're doing isn't preparing your graduates to go out and be successful. And one of the things every university monitors is the employability rate. And, you want to make sure that you are making your graduates as ready to get into the workforce. But if you have great industry partners who know your graduates are amazing, it's much easier for them to take a look at them and get them into their companies, into that industry. And then you're doing a service to both the companies that are your partners and your students.
This is something which again has come across with our conversations with employers, and we mentioned adaptability. And this is something that it seems like the thing that Pitt's already doing, which is adapting new courses and partnerships to the industries they're in, because ebbs and flows, as you mentioned, there's great shifts in industries, and especially in tech engineering, things are changing constantly. So, there's no one constant that you can be taught in theory. Which leads me to the next question, because things have changed the last 5 years. I suppose things have accelerated post-pandemic. I've noticed that yourself. You've noticed shifts in young graduates. What they value. Purpose, mobility, flexibility, global belonging. So, how do you think this is reflected in alumni engagement at the moment?
At least for us, what we've seen is the alumni are thrilled, want to spend their time, share their talents with students more than ever. We work on some programs, and I cannot tell you that if we put out there a call for our alumni in countries to come and we tell them that we're going to be working with students, it's overwhelming. It's just, I think that our alumni have seen, especially now that Pitt has sort of, in the last year, Pitt was named to one of what was called the New Ivies by Forbes magazine. And, what that said is that employers value the type of education the students coming out of Pitt. That made our alumni more proud than you can imagine, because they now see what the value of their degree is, but they also are seeing that this university has really, really grown since I've been there. What can I do to give back? What can I do to help? We have programs where we try to place, anytime students are going out on a global experience, we want to involve alumni in that experience. We want to bring alumni into events that we have when we're out working with students and their parents before they come to the university. We want to have our alumni involved in talking to students who might like the university. We, you know, utilize our alumni all around the world to advocate for Pitt and be our marketing sort of mouthpieces in different countries to let everybody know where this university is going. And I haven't had anyone tell me no yet. So it is, our alumni have become really proud of what we've done. And when you go and you sit these graduate or the students or young graduates in front of alumni and they talk about what their experiences were at the university now and the skills they're coming out with, and you hear how they can present themselves. One thing I hear all the time when, our alums meet with our global experiences teams is how impressive our students are. They can't believe this person's only 19 or 20. The conversation they had with them was at a level they never would have expected going in to these things. So what we're really seeing now is the students are just absolutely amazing coming to the University of Pittsburgh. We're breaking records for applications every year on the students that want to be here and the quality of students. And when our alumni get to meet them and when employers get to meet them, or people looking for internships, it's really coming across that Pitt is preparing these students well, and the students know how to talk about themselves, market themselves. But more than that, they really are able to carry on conversations at a high level, to where we talked about before, put them out of their comfort zone. Every once in a while, we're going to get that. But for the most part, from what I've seen, is our students are pretty savvy when they're out there, and they do a really good job interacting with our alumni and our alums and employers.
It's a great one. So there is a shift. And then just a quick follow up. I was just wondering, have you noticed, because post pandemic, things have changed a lot as well, of course, in a sense that the specific thing, do you think that has a longest lasting impact on how universities engage with the graduates, or things are pretty much the same as they were, since?
No, they're definitely different. So what we've seen post pandemic, especially on our side for engaging with alumni, is they want something more meaningful. So before, it just used to be get together and see old friends, meet new friends, very casual get-togethers.
Yes.
What we're seeing is those are okay. But what we're getting on feedback, and it's something we're doing as a university, and I'm part of a team leading it, is we're looking to bring the university to our alumni, but they want to know something that's going on at the university that either impacts them where they are, impacts the value of their degree, or is making an impact somewhere on the world that is groundbreaking or something they can brag about when they go and they're out talking with other people. So I'd say the biggest impact from pre-pandemic to post-pandemic was pre-pandemic was you could get away with a lot of very social gatherings and they'd be well attended. And it was just, hey, let's go say hi and see it, to where now people want to get something out of what they're doing. And we call something here, we have a lifelong learning program. So we want to bring programming for our alums to continue and enhance their career skills. If they're making a career change, be able to help them through, job market's very different from when someone might have entered it 20 years ago if they're looking to re-enter a job market now or change careers. So we want to be there to be able to provide those skills. And so I'd say that's the biggest thing for alumni is we're much more focused on making sure alumni have access to a lot of the things the students do in maintaining their skills, their employability, and navigating changes throughout the workforce.
It is true, and something that came out of those changes happened last 5 years, and they are meaningful in a way that it also get the, say, university or employer to notice things may have not noticed before, and what students value more. And you just said, they're different. They value things differently. There's more meanings to what they want to do. And that brings me to challenge number 6, which is, the benefits of studying abroad. And you already mentioned that, it is involved in your global exchange programs. And from your vantage, point, building Pitt's global footprint, what are the real career benefits of studying, interning, or connecting internationally? Does it meaningfully change how students navigate the job market?
I really think it does. To be honest, it's amazing. When I got into this role, is I am a graduate of Pitt long ago, and my view of study abroad when I was there was it was something that was unaffordable to me and didn't think about doing it. Now, what I'm seeing for students is it can be done. The university has pathways for everybody. If you want that opportunity, it's there. And you get these students out of their comfort zone and they're away from their friends. They're away from what's familiar. They're on different schedules. As and I'm sure talking this, if you have an American student who's going to study abroad in, let's say, Tokyo, I'm sure it's a very different type of work day than they would have been used to working for an employer here in the United States. You have to get used to different work styles. You have some of our students who have done multiple study abroad programs, so they can compare, an employer in Asia to an employer in Europe, an employer in India to an employer in South Africa. And you can really get to see what it takes to work on a global team. This is honestly what I do is I work with all of our regional alumni networks in the US. They are vastly, vastly different than the alumni I work with around the world. There's no way anyone could put one sort of set of here's what you need to do and make it work everywhere around the world. If you attempt to do that, it's never going to work. Is getting out on a global experience gives you an adaptability to look at situations where you never would have considered all of these different factors. I actually just edited something the other day, and it was one where taking a look, I was like, well, if this is going out to the full file, we only mentioned a couple key places within the US. Should we look and mention others? And it's one of those things, oh, yeah. And I only have that skill because that's on my mind foremost. As small as it is, one of the things that I got asked about years ago, this was probably even pre-pandemic, why do I put the +1 in my email signature on my phone number? Because it's someone who only works with US alums. It just wouldn't cross their mind. So when you're getting out and you're doing all these other things on global experiences, you're picking up such subtle hints that make you more employable. Early on in my career, I spent a lot of time working in Asia where we have a very large alumni population to do one side of my business cards in that country's language. I cannot tell you the number of people that was their first comment as soon as I got my business card about that. So it's learning those little subtle things you can do to separate yourself from everyone else. And the only way you can do that is to operate and to work in different countries different cultures and expand yourself out of what is simple and easy.
This is something that came across already. Again, this is for the guests we had, and one of them things you just mentioned about cultural differences. And without that international exposure, you tend to default to your original position about that. Everything you know is there, and you assume everyone knows your position. So even things you just mentioned about adding international dial prefix to your number suggests that you realize, well, my number could come from anywhere. Why would one assume they should, know where that place is? And we spoke to Shok Su, who runs a global supply chain business from Shanghai in China. And he says something similar you said. It's just that global exposure, the study abroad, it just gives you so many pluses to know, especially in business culture, because those business cultures, especially across other parts of the world, you cannot just copy and paste what you've learned, even if you work somewhere, and then just assume that this is exactly how things are going to work in whatever place you want to move next. But do you see, any sort of signals? I don't know if this is just a follow up, but do you just see signals in alumni career to prove that study abroad has made a tangible difference? Anything you can think of?
Anecdotally, yes. Alums that I meet, especially the ones who are expats that are abroad, their stories are easy when they talk to me. I've met an alum who, at 20 years old, the very first time Pitt offered a study abroad experience in China, went immediately upon graduation, moved, and then became a serial entrepreneur, starting companies throughout China for the next 25 years. Never thought about going to China till it was offered. Nobody else was in the program interested. There was a scholarship available, and it opened up an entire world for the rest of his career and his life on what he was doing. I'd love to see, and I work with that global experience office, I think we're trying to pull together some data points on that to show and to get more real experiences noted so that we can share them out. But it's just, as I talk with alums, not only the expats, but alumni who have studied here and moved on or returned to the countries where they were born, is being able to get yourself out of what you're used to and being able to really interact with such a different culture than what you're accustomed to changes how you think going into situations, and it changes how you problem solve. We have one of our alums, and we asked them to speak to some incoming students. And that was one of the things he said was, look, in our country, we don't really go out at night and go to these parties and things. He said, but you should just go see what happens in America, see what's different. Just talk to people, just put yourself outside of this comfort zone, because what you're going to do is find people who are going to help you. They're going to help you grow. But if you don't do that, you're going to get out the theory that you need, but you're going to return the same as when you left. And I think that's the same with these global experiences. Is if you go and you just study, and then you go and every student wants to do it, I'm studying in X place, but I can go visit these places on the weekend, just me and my best friend, and we're going to insulate. You don't get the same out of it as if you interact with that group as a whole and the other students that are there with you. Because a lot of these global experience programs, sometimes you have a housing stay with a family. That means you get to interact with that family the entire time you're there. Or you could be in a global dorm interacting with students from universities all around the world. Take the time to use those experiences and really make sure you're putting yourself out there. And that's when you go and you sit in an interview and you can talk to an employer about those experiences and about the different things you've worked on that have such diverse teams. You're going to stand out from everyone else.
This is definitely something that is definitely come out again and again about the fact the moment you're going to say, I've done that amount of time abroad studying or doing internships, even if it's a company no one heard of, that is one more above anyone else and be sending CVs to getting jobs. It's something that has come across again and again. It's the fact that most of CVs are read by AI tools. No one actually reads them and they look the same. Just getting that one extra one above anyone else, the one you described, just the cultural exposure to those things could make so much difference to your employability. Well, This was the 6 challenges. I got two more questions for you. Now, these are from two gentlemen who we already interviewed, and we asked them a question to ask university. I'm not sure if you're going to have the exact answers for it, but I hope you can answer the best you can. The first one's for Michael Korn, CEO of Blue Garage in London, Lewisham. And his question is, I'm quoting, what are you doing to give your most talented students access to tools and opportunities they need beyond what you currently provide to create innovate, beyond the classroom?
Yeah, so you couldn't have asked me this at a better time as we were able to announce a very innovative gift that came to the university through our honors college. One of our alums is providing scholarship for our honors college students to go out and do research and study around the globe. Our honors college is very selective. It's highly ranked throughout the world. We have a partnership with Oxford through that. So we're giving students, especially there, the opportunity to do different programs and research globally with highly ranked university partners that are going to make them stand out. Some of the other things that we're doing, I mentioned our Office of Entrepreneurship and Innovation. We've created a culture at Pitt where you can build your own company while you're here. And if you have the idea and you take it, Pitt gives you the support. They have the mentors. We have an entire building dedicated, the Big Idea Center, into helping students explore how to start a company, how to do all the paperwork to incorporate the company correctly. We help students get patents. We help our faculty and staff get patents. We also allow our alumni to come back and utilize these services. So Pitt is really forward thinking on how this world's changed and what the university can do for students, alumni, and even our faculty and staff to support them in whatever endeavor they're doing. And like you said, the innovation and the culture beyond the classroom is, if you really, and there's some companies that have spun out. And one I know just in the past year here at Pitt is getting global recognition. And the student who did it is going to study. She's a Rhodes Scholar now. It's the university looking at connecting multiple programs to give students success. And I'd say that's the biggest thing that we've got right now is the university understands how much we need to sort of invest back into our students, faculty, staff, and alumni with what they're doing. Their outcomes only help, the University of Pittsburgh. And so it's a really cool time to be here.
That's great to hear, and I'm hoping that other universities, everyone that listen to this, will take notice wherever they are from of the Pitt's way you could sort of start a business over there and then spin it off. As you said, this is a great incubator idea that would move that, especially the gap between the theory and practice, because you can just start straight from university. In a way, there's so many different industries, and one of the questions we had from Oscar Sadler, who's the head of client strategy at Wiser, and one of the things they do is getting the graduates out and linking them up really a different industry. His question was, and you could be as honest as you want to be here, what industry do you think will be dead in 10 years? And how are you preparing students for an increasingly global and fluid workforce?
Yeah, that is an interesting question on there. And, I put some thought into it, and I've even talked with some alums, where they either have their students coming out of universities or they have friend students coming out of the universities, some very prestigious ones with computer science and programming degrees. And they're very worried about what's going to happen and seeing that they're having a harder time finding jobs than they did. I don't know if the industry would be dead, but I think the biggest impact, now and over the next few years is on that side where things can be automated more. You're always going to need someone to review and check, but I think the number of graduates that are coming out in those specialties far outpace the need and demand now. And I think what universities need to do, and our university is doing this, is infusing AI, infusing other things into the curriculum to teach students now, here's what you're going to need going forward. So instead of being worried about it, let's teach you how to operate within these new systems that are being built. Let's make sure our curriculum gives you X, Y, and Z, but on top of it, here's what we see coming, and we think you should learn these 3 other things. So I think that's sort of what universities need to do to help the students, but it is, I mean, the changes are crazy. I have a senior in high school and an 8th grader, and I cannot imagine what the world will look like when my 8th grader goes into universities and what the areas of study are compared to what they are today.
Wait, it's a guessing game because things change so much, and yet there's lots of bubbles and AI as well, so things can just burst and then move on as well. We're just asking generally to everyone, and it's difficult to predict, but perhaps the more insights we get, the better, and we can perhaps have a sort of a collective way of looking at the future because it's less predictable. I'm not necessarily saying the future is predictable, but especially when you design courses at university, it does take time. You can't just do it on a whim, right? You can't just
Right?
design a course. Oh yeah, because this thing is dead now, but it takes probably months or years just to redesign the entire course around a new thing. So thank you for that. But there's one more thing I want to ask you, if you don't mind. It's
Yes.
just for you to ask the question. Um, our next guest. And our next guest, it will be an employer. So, we got 2 worlds here. We've got university, academia, and employer. So would you like, I want you to ask a question to our next guest, if you don't mind. Is anything you can ask them, anything you could ask them?
I would love it, and I'm glad it's gonna be an employer because this will help us. And my question was, with the evolution of AI, racing at a breakneck pace, what are the skills students will need in the next 5 years in order to be ready to make an immediate impact on the global workforce? Um, the more I can ask alums when I'm out, ask employers, that's what I can take back to my university. So I think that's, to me, that's a huge question that working at a university, I won't know unless I'm doing something like this or listening to your other guests and really seeing what they think and what their opinions are on, where students need to focus.
Thank you. We'll definitely ask them. We're compiling the questions both ends, and we'll definitely ask the next opportunity because things are changing so much. We need answers. Well, Jason, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing our insights. This has been another episode of the Knowledge Exchange where we highlight the bridge between education and industry. You can catch up on all episodes at Insider London on YouTube. And join us next time, again, we will explore universities, employers, and students' insights into the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you.